And for today's pocket nines, again. So mid position, we have villain 5 open. Opens 3 big blinds. He's playing 31-8 over 13 hands. Don't really know a whole lot about him. All that we can do is basically set up an opening range that kind of follows what I think a lot of people would play. Those gappers. It might be something like that. It might not have these 2 3s 4s. And he is in middle position, but could have those. So I think that's his range. And then it's us, and I'm calling with basically a pretty tight range. He's an unknown, so we can't really expand or contract our range based on what he's doing. Now the players behind us, you can see that we have a lot of hands on these 2 players, and neither of them look like they are overly loose. This guy has called 2 bets 34% of the time. He's in the big blind. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up coming along. You can see calls 2 bets 30-something%. More than anything, he does it in the early position where he's probably afraid of raising, so he's more likely just to call. We could raise part of our range, but you know, when we look at our 3 bet, we're looking at something like that. So instead of raising, we might just fold instead of going multi-way. But you know, our hands do have some equity. They are somewhat decent, and you know, if we think we have some advantage post flop, then we could go ahead and play it. So I called, and we get villain 7 calls. He calls 27%. Calls pre-flop 2 bets 27%, and then big blind. So let's start with this player. He's in the cutoff. He chose to call instead of raise. His 3 bet is 7%. In the cutoff, he is called 2 bets 30%. So I think he's probably going to be, let's take out, I think he probably would have been raising here, 3 betting, maybe something like that, which means we can get rid of all those kings. I just don't see a lot of people playing those. Maybe ace 9. It's 22%. That might be a little too tight, but I think we'll go with it. Something, we already had a caller. He might be a little bit wider because you know he's in the cutoff, but let's move on to villain 2. So villain 2 also calls. He's in the big blind. I think he calls pretty darn wide. He's able to see a board. He didn't 3 bet, so I'm gonna just take out queens plus ace king, and he's probably looking at those suited connectors, probably the suited aces, suited kings, possibly all ace offsuits. Let's get rid of those. You're looking at 33.5%. That's probably wide enough. So now we're gonna go see a flop. I am with a very narrow range, so 4.37%, only 58 combos, and we see a board of 10-4-3. Now that board is pretty dry. You figure it's not going to hit a whole lot, and really it only hits us if we have pocket 10s. So overall, this doesn't really hit a whole lot of people. Villain 2 checks, no big surprise. He does donk at 40%, so since he did not donk, I am going to exclude. He did not donk. We're going to get rid of those 10s, like queen 10, jack 10, 10, 9, 10, 8, because I think he would probably bet those to figure out where he's at. I think overpair probably checks. I think pocket pair below the top card probably would have bet. Middle pair checks, bottom pair checks, big board, no made hand checks. I think his draws will be checking as well. So 84% he checks. Villain 5 checks. He's the pre-flop raiser. And question is, what would he have bet? I kind of feel like a lot of, let's see here, we don't know 13 hands. We don't know what his c-bet stats look like, but typically, I think sets bet here, especially into three opponents. I think over pair bets, especially into three opponents. I bet top pair bets, especially into three opponents. So I think he's looking something like that. I even suggest that his draws, open-ended straight draws, gut shot draws, would be betting. At least open-ended straight draw would be betting. So that's his range. So those two, you can see my equity increases now since both of those check. So now it's to us. What do we do? I guess it comes down to what's going to be our betting range, what's going to be our checking range, what's going to be our breakdown. I think on this board it just misses us. I don't think we could really bet and hope to pick up the pot too much, especially as a pure bluff. So like the sets, yeah, it's great. I mean, we hit a set, but the board's not gonna hit anyone else. So I don't expect a whole lot of calls with the set. Same thing with an overpair. Best we're hoping for is a 10 maybe to call. I think it's kind of worth it to risk an ace, king, or queen and then play poker from there. So I just think that we're going to be checking the entire range here. I bet 9. I bet actually pretty big. So the question is, what would I do that with? I don't think it makes sense to bet a set. I don't think it makes sense to bet the overpair. Possibly we bet pocket pair below the top card because we're looking to see what are people going to call. If they call, we can I think we can safely give up because they probably have a 10, maybe have ace 2, ace 5, but I think we would be ahead of those hands, and on the turn we're basically just drawing to one card, the ace then. So I think we could probably bet 7, 8, 9, 7s, 8s, and 9s, and then what kind of draw can we have? Maybe we can add our 2-card backdoor flush draw as kind of as our bluff. So you're looking at more value than bluffs, but kind of our 7, 8, 9, we're trying to buy equity. So maybe that's what I'm doing with the bets. I don't really like the bet here, but I think I understand what I was doing. I just don't like it because there's 3 other opponents, and I don't think that's gonna win enough pots, and I think we're gonna be in a bad situation on the turn. Basically, any jack, queen, king, or ace is gonna hurt us. 9 is gonna hurt us. Now, of course, if we have pocket 9s, that's great, but I think a 5, a 2, an ace, those are all things that are going to be tricky. So we bet, and we actually bet pretty large. We bet like 3/4 pot, 3/4 pot, and this player calls. So I think sets, over pair, top pair is going to call. Possibly the pocket pair below the top pair is going to call. Middle pair maybe. Just kind of depends on this player. You can see that he folds a c-bet. He doesn't really fold a whole lot. It's 27-13. I don't think this is a player that's going to really be calling these pocket pair below the boards. So, 2s, I don't think he's going to be doing bottom pair. I'm not even sure if he's going to do middle pair. But I do think he's got a gut shot and open and a straight draw in his range. So we're going to go with that. And then both of these remaining players fold. So we're going to be heads up. Okay, so here's my range, assuming that we're doing it right. Oh, we should put this in. So this was 10 of clubs, 4 spades, 3 diamonds. All right, so we have, it's 54.5%. We've got 30 combos now. Their range is something like that. That's 45.6. They have 119 combos, and now we get to a turn, which is the 2 of spades. And you can see that I am behind 24-76, and it is on me. So that card does not really improve our situation. Basically, we would be bluffing maybe again, but I think if he calls, he has something. At best, we're going to be beating these pocket pair, these 5, 6, 7, 8s, 9s if I had the 9s. So I don't really think we should be betting here. I think we took our stab, which I think was a mistake, and maybe the flush draw helps. We called the backdoor flush draw, but I don't think we're going to be getting any folds. I think if we bet, we're just building up a pot, and we're pretty deep. So I checked. I think that's right, 100% of my range. And then villain 7 checks. So villain 7 checks, and I think, what kind of hands is he going to check with? I think straights would probably bet. I think sets would probably try to bet. Could be thinking that I missed, so he's hoping that he can slow play it. But I think most people are going to be betting, try to get some value, because they recognize that 2 doesn't really help. So with him checking, I also don't think overpair or top pair. Definitely not top pair. So I think we're looking at something like this. Maybe these draws as well. So let's X out straights and sets and overpairs and top pairs. So I think that is his checking range since we showed weakness. So that's 34.7%. He has 41 combos, and our range was 100% of our continuance range, which is 3 combos. And then we get a 10 of diamonds. So I don't think he has a 10 at all. I think he would have bet. And you can see that equity is kind of matched, 54.2 versus 45.8. And it's on us. So the question is, if I bet, what kind of hands is he going to call? If I bet, would he call any of those pocket pairs? I don't know. I think it might be better just to check and call. So even with mine, I think we can check our 9s and 8s and 7s and probably call with 8s and 9s. I think we fold our ace highs and nothings. So I did check, and he checks behind, which again, I think it's going to be something weak. I show 9s, he shows 4-5, so he actually did call with the 4-5 with the bottom pair. So I think that was on the flop. That middle pair, we had 4-5. Oops. So then on the turn, that was the 2 of spades. He checked, and yeah, I don't think he was really going to be betting those. And then 10 of diamonds, I really don't think he was going to bet. So we won the hand, which is okay, but I don't really like my bet on the flop. I think I just got lucky that I was ahead. Make a mental note that he calls middle pair. All right. If you like this hand, look tomorrow for another.